Shut up!
Okay, it was right. You named it the person's name.
I forgot somebody's name today.
Oh, welcome to Chick Chat Comedy Podcast. Oh my God, we have a fantastic show today. First, I just want to say hello to the beautiful, and you're looking actually very tan, Carrie Carabas, laying out at the pool.
No, cleaning around the pool and serving lunch around the pool.
Who are you serving lunch to?
The kids.
Oh, God.
9,000 kids.
Let them get their own. And your daughter is here listening, so we have to be on our best behavior.
Not really. But
Okay.
Yeah.
And a great guest, the Eddie Brill is here
The
today.
one and only.
Yay.
The one and only. The warm-up for Letterman, talent coordinator for Letterman. And was also on one of my favorite shows ever was the Jonathan Katz Professional Therapist. Or what was it called?
It was Jonathan Katz, Professional
It
Therapist.
was Professional Therapist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
The
did
funny-
two of them. One aired, and then the show got canceled in the third season. They never made the third season. But it was really one of the thrills of my life because growing up, I loved cartoons, and to
Yeah.
actually be a cartoon and have them make a cartoon of you was
That's great.
For people who don't know it, he would basically take comics on, and it was like they'd be laying on a couch, and he's the
Right, the
therapist.
therapist. That
and
was
you would
great.
ask them questions that would basically set up
You're
for your
doing your act.
punchlines. You're doing your act.
But he isn't there when we're doing it. When
You're
we're recording
kidding
it,
me.
he's not there. He comes in later and does
Voice.
the stuff later.
So you just do your
I'm
act?
just doing my act kind of
Oh,
thing
that's hilarious.
in a chatty fashion. John at Doctor, you do it that way.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right.
I did a few things. They had a whole company, and they did this Squiggle Vision. The thing was like shaking. They did Science Court, and I got to do a couple episodes of that. It was a really good. Science Court was ABC Saturday morning cartoon, and of course that was my whole life as a child, sitting in front of the TV on Saturday morning watching cartoons.
I love TV.
And I
to
got
this
to
day,
be on those shows.
Oh, that's so cool. That's
Yeah.
very cool. And you know Carrie because the two of you are gamblers. I believe. Is that from
Right.
gambling?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
we're
used
gamblers.
to be part of the group.
Yeah,
Are
the
you-
poker world.
Are you a degenerate gambler?
I'm,
Yes.
my whole family, everyone gambled, and
Really?
there was horse racing, bingo. I mean, from one end of the spectrum to the other, and I love gambling, and we would have so much fun and laughing, but you try to win, so there was a lot of that kind of energy in the room, and but it was always funny because there was a bunch of comedians.
It
that
was
were
all
very-
comedians. And
Yeah.
what was great about it was that it was constant, everyone would rag on each other. But
Yeah.
what was great about it was
course.
that they were going to do they wanted to do a series of comedians playing poker.
This was before that ever
Rounders,
was
right before-
everything that
There was
anything
no World Series of Poker. Like,
Right.
we were so ahead of our time.
And what happened? Why
Well,
did it not
here's
go-
what happened. Rory and Peter Rosegartner. I'm sorry that I got your names wrong, but
Rose
Gardner.
Rosegarden.
Gardner.
And I love
Gardner.
them.
Gardner.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got it right.
Garden. Just I'm
Garden
trying to
ski.
think of a song of garden with garden in it. I'm being followed by a rose garden, rose garden, and so they just said we love what you guys are doing, and they didn't tell us. No, they said we love what you're doing, and we're going to create a show. So they got this network, and they gave us money to create a show, and we made chips with our name on it and all this kind of stuff, and it's all ready to go. And the day before it, we did a practice run.
Were you part of it, Carrie?
No,
Not yet,
no.
not at that time, but this was at the beginning.
All right.
And the company folded and became like the stock company. But we had Norm Macdonald ready to go and John Goodman. We were having special guests and all the original poker guys and gals, and Sarah
Heartbreaking.
Silverman and Vic Henley and
Sarah Silverman played poker. Did you play with Sarah Silverman?
I don't think I've ever played with
Liz
Sarah.
Winstead.
I played with
Liz.
I played with Liz. I played with a bunch of you guys, but never with Sarah.
Right.
And I played with Vic Henley's wife, Robin.
Yeah, Robin Henley.
Robin
Her
Henley.
real name was Robin Williams, till she married
Yes.
to Henley.
Was she a good gambler?
Yeah.
How much money would go down? Like, how much money
It
could you
wasn't-
lose?
We didn't kill each other because we were playing every week. But it was good. I mean, if you were, not great at it, you can lose a couple of hundred,
No,
300.
but yeah, you could. But it was always a 50-50 split
Yeah,
What does that mean, a 50-50
because
split?
you played a high-low.
yeah.
What does that mean?
So if you had,
Split the pot.
yeah, you'd split the pot
Like
with
you
the
have
high
the lowest
hand.
hand and the highest hand splits.
Wait, if you had the lowest hand, you get half. Why would you reward the one who's shitty?
Right. Well, that's sort of the story of comedians.
That's why I always.
That's
did well.
socialism.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Wow,
but
I'm
it's
surprised
democratic
Carrie
socialism.
agreed
It's
to
a
that.
different. Yeah,
Wow.
well, the policemen are socialists, right?
I like socialism.
Yeah,
I am a socialist
I
down.
took social studies. I was not very good at it, but it was it's high-low games. We did a lot of them, and they split them. And one week I'd win 50, and next week I'd lose 50, and it was just fun.
So it wasn't like anyone was going down in flames, losing
couple
thousands
of
of
people.
dollars.
There'd be a couple of people came in and went down in flames and never came back.
Who?
I don't remember. I remember Sam Greenfield was playing a lot, and then he was losing, and then stopped playing. And I remember a couple of people who there were a couple of people who were just freaks that came in that weren't
Part of the game.
I would play like the Unabomber.
What does that mean?
She wore the big
I wore
hoodie.
I wore the hoodie, and
Yeah.
I'd have a mask so I wouldn't breathe their smoke. They were smokers.
Oh, horrible.
Yeah.
So did a lot of smoking, and I couldn't handle the smoke.
And I didn't smoke anymore. I had quit smoking by then. But
I don't know how you handled it.
yeah, I just I had an air filter thing in my apartment, but it still was,
You
know.
were choking to death.
Choking
What kind of
to death.
smoking did you do?
All kinds, every kind of
Pot.
smoking. Pot, cigarettes, cigars.
Do you still smoke pot?
No.
I told you I just started.
Did you?
I'm
Did you
enjoying
like it?
I love it.
Yeah, I loved it too, but I'm being, it's the fire
Adam's
in the
my
lungs
supplier.
thing. I've smoked pot for every day for like 20 years.
Oh,
at
so
least.
you're over it.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, once in a while. Just recently, someone said, "Hey, you want a hit?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll take a hit." And I was like, 'Cause I hadn't smoked in a while. It was fun.
And did you get high very quickly?
Very high, very quickly.
Interesting.
And I was with friends, so I didn't feel weird.
And I know you from
The Paper Moon.
The Paper Moon. Now, Carrie, did you ever work the
No,
Paper?
I'm
No,
not
we didn't.
100.
No, yeah. Paper Moon
Moon.
started. Last week was 34 years ago. The Paper Moon started.
34 years. So that means I've been doing comedy at least. I never know what year I started.
84 was the Paper Moon started, and I saw you not there. I saw you somewhere else. I think it
Before
was
that.
a Comedy U Grand, maybe, or
A year
someplace.
before. When did I start? 83 or 82? I don't know.
Yeah, I saw you. I started the club, and I was out of comedy for a few years in
Yeah, yeah.
between 81 and 84. And then I saw you at a place, and I went, "Oh, this girl is hilarious." And you were a regular. You were there all the time.
I was a regular, and it was so good that well, of course, that you gave me those spots, because when you're starting, it's very hard to get spots. It's hard to get spots now,
Yeah.
after being in the business this long. But when you're starting, it was this great little club. I loved it, and the audiences were great, and it was in a, I don't know,
It
what
was
did
in a
it seat?
basement.
Yeah, the basement.
It's
seated-
110 people
Yeah,
downstairs,
perfect.
and it was beautiful. And I built a room downstairs for the comedians to hang out
Oh,
in.
yeah. And you could try new shit.
But see, comedy's it's not the same anymore. The fun of comedy, the way we had it when we first started, me a lot after you guys, but
Right. When did you start? What
All
year
right,
did you
you are
start?
younger than me.
1990.
Okay.
90 you started.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I dabbled in 87. I took a class here
Right.
With who?
with Gabe Abelson.
I
Ah.
love Gabe Abelson.
Gabe
Love Gabe
Abelson.
Abelson.
And I actually was in the class that he met his wife, Vicky.
Ah.
Vicky and I were classmates in his class. That's how she met Gabe, and
Right.
sparks flew.
Right.
I don't think
but
And
he
of
was
course
interested
I-
in you,
anymore.
but you didn't want him, so
I don't,
he
I don't
stayed.
think he was interested in me.
Oh.
Nobody was interested in me.
Everyone
not
was
true.
interested in you. Pretty
You
much
just didn't
everyone
know.
wanted to get. Oh, sorry.
Get in my pants.
I can't
No,
say
they
anything
wanted
to
my
the daughter.
pants. They didn't want to have sex with me. They just wanted to wear the great pants I had purchased.
Now you were a little crazy. Like you did a lot of drugs in the day. Like
Yeah, I did all of them.
You did all of them.
All of them. Almost. I didn't
You did
shoot
coke?
up or anything.
You did
yeah,
coke?
but more like in L.A. I started going to L.A. in '86, and then I
That's
was
when
in
comedy was blam, booming.
That
and-
was the biggest time of and the coolest, funniest comics.
And immediately, my first night, Sam Kinison saw me and said, "This guy's good, and I want you to hang out with us."
I
and
love Sam
and
Kinison.
I got work every night at the comedy store. I was practically living there. I was living there.
So Mitzi
in a-
loved you.
Yeah, she treated me really well. Gave
And
me
then
a lot
she
of
gave
spots.
you she had like apartments
Yeah,
behind
I lived
the
in
place?
2 different apartments. I lived in this little shack. You were telling me that you like that story about the
Oh yeah,
the girl.
tell that story. I want to hear that story.
Well,
it was
you know,
on Facebook.
There was a lot of debauchery, I guess, and a lot of drugs and a lot of fun. And one night, this very lovely person asked me to go home with
Lady?
her. Yeah,
Yes.
lady, when I'm with you, I'm smiling. She asked me to go back to her boudoir.
Yes.
And she
How
was,
old were you?
I was 5. I think I was 28, something like that.
28?
Something like that.
You had the mullet then? Did you
Yeah,
have the
I
mullet?
had
You
the
had
mullet.
a
Of
you had a
course I did.
hardcore mullet.
I love hockey, and of course I had to wear the hair. And then I had a girlfriend in '89 who said, "I love you, but you have to get rid of the mullet." And I was so happy that she was cool enough to be
Honest
able
with
to.
you.
Yeah, it was good.
Yes.
But
And,
I see you're bringing it back now.
Who? Yeah, I was going. Wait a second. Give me some head of hair. We're all singing because of you. We're in the singing mode. So anyway, so I go back to our house and we have a lot of fun, and there's
Yeah.
drugs and
Fun
fun
is
and
sex?
and
Oh, okay.
there's a lot of great sex. And then she gave me this red coat as a gift, as a prize to like a hair. And not
As a
only
prize?
not only you
You're
get the
that
sex,
good?
but yeah. And and tell him what else he's won, Johnny. He's got a red coat and looked like an A&P like butcher coat, but it was also like, kind of stylish. So
Wait a minute. It said A&P on
no,
it?
it looked like the
Oh,
A&P butchers would wear those
Yeah,
red
yeah, I remember
things.
those
Like a
coats.
lab coat.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Okay.
I wear it the next night at the Comedy Store. Well, first I go back to the little shack that I'm staying at, sharing it with another comedian. And
Who were you sharing it with?
I'm not telling you. 'Cause
Oh, really?
Yeah, not this person. It would be very sad if they found out, what happened.
Oh, okay.
And so I get there, and there's this beautiful girl there, and she's bummed out because that comedian had passed out. He picked her up. She's in the thing, and she's sitting there going, well, that's a very nice red coat you have. And I said, well, would you like to try it? She took all her clothes off and put the red coat on and said, would you like some cocaine? I went, sure. I would like some cocaine. And I did more cocaine.
Sniff
And then
it
I
off
had
of my tits.
Right. And then I had more incredible sex with this girl. No
Oh,
prizes.
wait a minute. Is this the same night?
Same night.
So
I go,
you could
See,
do
if
that
a woman
and then
did
do
that.
that again.
yeah, the woman that I long to. Oh, it's all going to be songs. And so then I do that, have that fun, and then she ends up going. And the next day, the comedian wakes up. And she had all this coke with her. I was like, "This is how much fun this is." And then,
Oh, my God.
and then all of a sudden, she leaves, but she leaves the coat behind. And the guy goes, "Hey, there was some girl, and I passed out. Did you see her?" I go, "Yeah, I think I saw her leave." And he goes, "And she snorted all my coke." And I was like, "Oh my God!" So she said, "This guy fell asleep, and you're here, and I'll have sex with you instead." And his coat.
Why waste the night?
Right. So we had a lot of fun. And so the next night I wear the coat to the store.
To the
and
Comedy Store.
Comedy Store, which is literally next door.
Yes.
And Sam Kinnis goes, "Where'd you get that coat?" I said, blah, blah, blah. He goes, "Oh, that's my coat." And he said,
Oh,
what happened
my
was I had
God.
borrowed a lot of money off of that girl. She's very wealthy. And she took my coat and wouldn't give it back to me until I gave her the $10,000 or whatever I had borrowed from her. And she's trying to let me know that, well, she knew that I would wear the coat and Kinnison would see it.
Oh, and that would piss him off.
Yeah. So,
Wow,
you
you
know.
were wearing his coat.
Yeah.
That's you.
And
that's,
and I said, "Here, take the coat." "No, I want you to wear it." And I wore it a lot, and it was a lot of fun.
Did you keep it?
Yeah,
You still have it.
I don't still have
You.
it. I know I had it for a very long time, but it's kind of like
It was Sam Kinnison's coat.
I know. I wish I kept it.
Did he ever pay the girl back the $10,000
I don't know.
or whatever?
I don't think so.
Well, here's the best.
Yeah.
Sam Kinison. Well, I
Was
saw
so
him
good
here
to
for the
me.
first. He was
Ah.
so good to
But
you.
Yeah.
but here's the best.
What?
These women back in the day were comedy groupies. So
Yeah,
it was
that's
like
true,
they
right?
went they
Yeah.
did everything
Yeah,
around.
and it was this. There
went-
was guys too who were groupies to the female comics as well. There were-
I don't
yeah,
think
I don't
so.
think anybody
That
was
never.
rocking
that
down
never.
Roseanne
Yeah.
Barr's daughter
No,
bang.
never.
Well, yeah.
There was maybe one guy that would hit on. Most guys, when they see you in an audience, they don't want to go home
They don't
and
wanna
bang
go
the
near
comic.
you.
Yeah, you're
No,
like,
they
Well,
were- you're
I
you're
didn't-
nasty.
aggressive, you're nasty, you're talking about dirty shit. They don't want you.
That's not true. You don't know what was talked behind your back in the loveliest.
No, Patty.
sense of the
Everybody
word.
loved Patty.
Yeah, we all did. I remember
Everybody that
me
I talked
and Colin
to.
Quinn and Dennis Leary were working together with you one night. And you were on stage, and we said we're in love with her. And then all three of us, and they go, "I'm in love with her. I'm in love with her. I'm in love with her. We're all in love
Why
with you."
did no one tell me they were in love with
Well,
me?
you
Because-
fell from
when it could,
cornfield.
Yeah.
when it could have.
But the one thing that I did, and I'm proud of, is
Yeah.
that all the time I booked shows or booked things, I didn't sleep with comics because I didn't
Yeah,
want to
I
be
agree.
that person.
I
you know.
agree.
No, that's good.
Yeah, I never thought that would be cool, and there was plenty of lovely women in my life that were great. So.
It's funny. All these straight men didn't want to tell her they loved her, but the gay guy had the courage.
Yeah, the one gay guy.
The one guy guy who
Yeah.
couldn't come through for me.
So
Right.
Came through for me.
I knew he was gay before you did.
Everybody knew. Now, how did
Everybody
you know
knew.
he was gay?
Well, I was walking by this restaurant, and he had his legs wrapped around another guy in
Get
the window.
the fuck out
All
of
right, I'm
Get the
Oh,
fuck out.
God.
Yes.
What year was this? Before
I
I,
don't
was
have the
dating
calendar.
or
You
after?
were probably
Okay.
married.
Was I married to him at that point?
I don't think you were married yet.
Was I dating him at
I
the
think
time?
so.
Well, I would have
Get
told
the fuck
him.
out.
I didn't know how to. I didn't
her.
know whether to tell you or not. It was my business. I one time told someone, my
Yes.
best friend gal in the world, who's still my best friend, Linda,
Yes.
who's the great, my bestest.
Yes.
I told her something about a guy, her boyfriend, who was sleeping with this other person, and it was the worst thing I ever did. And
She got mad
yeah,
at you?
she was very mad, and he was mad because she
No,
told him. And
I'm not like that. If you see something, say something.
yeah, right.
I'm good.
I
I'm
understand.
Good. I'm going to keep you
I
on
did.
my,
I tried to say something.
best
Well,
list.
you know what? If it happened to me now, like if someone would say Kevin's gay and I saw him, which of course would never happen,
Right.
I would
Maybe.
be like,
Kevin, who's Kevin?
my fiance.
Oh, okay.
But back in the day, I do remember my therapist saying, he's probably gay, and I go, well, why would you say that? And she goes,
Because
well,
he's blowing a guy.
She goes, if he
Sorry.
told you he experimented,
Right.
I'm sure he's gay. And I go,
He
well,
forgot to add on, I experimented for 2 years.
Right.
yes.
That's a different kind of thing.
Yes, and she said, and I go, well, he can perform. And she goes, yeah, she goes, but does he close his eyes? And I got up and left. I was so angry at her.
I'm angry at her.
And then, but see, why didn't I just listen to her and go?
Because you don't.
I didn't want to
Because
know.
yeah, right.
I just didn't
yeah,
wanna know.
Yeah.
Oh,
we
I
don't,
would wanna
once we
know
find
that.
out the truth and the foundation explodes
Yes.
in anything,
Yes.
politics, religion, advertising,
Yes.
whatever, men, women, then we don't want to hear. We don't want to know la 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 la.
Did
That's
he
what happened.
did Eric
No.
see you see him
No.
with his legs wrapped around
No,
some guy?
some Swedish guy or
Some
something. No, I don't know.
Swedish
I
guy.
made that part up.
What did the guy look like? Was he better looking than me?
Yes.
He was
Well,
Bjorn
he
to
had
be
bigger
alive.
boobs than you.
He had
He was
bigger
Bjorn.
tits than me.
Bjorn.
Well, that makes me actually feel better in a weird. Everybody has these stories. And
Yeah.
Scott Bruce has a story like that. He goes, "Oh, I knew he was gay. He pulled his pants down once to," and I go, "Well, was
Really?
he being funny?" And he goes, "I don't
No.
know if he was being funny.
Yeah.
He just pulled his pants down in an audition, like as a joke." But I'm like, "Okay, that's not good." And then I know Omnipop told me he saw him chase after some guy after
A
to
show.
come to see him at a show, and
Well,
I'm like, "Oh my God!" So all these people are telling me all these things that I just
Yeah.
Right,
I
because
know.
at his shows he had other fans.
Yeah. We'll be right back.
So anyway,
Right.
so I want to ask you about, first of all, your childhood, right? You
Yes.
grow up. Now, your mother and your father divorced, is that correct?
Yeah, in 1969, which was an incredible year in the world.
Why? What was
Because
happening?
everything happened in the world. Well, the sports in New York, the Mets won the World Series on my birthday. The Knicks won the championship.
Wait, are you a Met? I thought you were a Yankee guy.
I'm a Mets fan.
Oh, you're a Mets fan?
Mets
Why do I
fan.
see your
Because
pictures at Yankee games?
I'm a New Yorker, and
Oh.
friends of mine invite me. I'll root for
see.
them
Yes.
until they play the Mets. But the Mets were my father was a baseball player. And
a
yeah,
professional?
He was signed by the Philadelphia Athletics to play, but my grandfather talked him out of it because he was marrying my mother, and he always
Oh,
regretted that because he was so good.
I hate
He
when
was a
people do
superstar.
that.
What?
He
You
did.
shit on people's dreams
He was
and then
he was
regret.
playing for Lincoln High School. He was a superstar. He was a catcher.
Oh, that's horrible.
A
Yeah.
comedian by the name of Wild Willie.
Wild Willie Parsons?
No, Sacco.
Oh, okay.
Wild
Oh, I
Willie
know that
Sacco.
guy. I worked with him. What
He's a
about?
little crazy.
Yeah.
He got drafted from the Yankees.
Wow.
And his father made him not do it.
Ah, that's the worst.
No wonder he's
he
a
was
comic.
an amazing ball player, and the father said, "You're not doing that. You need to work, and you need to provide for this family."
Oh, you
'cause,
shit.
Right.
That's
you know,
terrible.
and
Yeah,
he-
that's horrible. That happened to my father. And so in 1969, the internet kind of was started. The
Right.
Man on the Moon. So many great albums came out. My Way and Led Zeppelin and
Was
1969
that
was
Stairway
All
to
right,
Heaven?
so
I
go
don't
on,
remember.
go on.
And yeah.
Carrie,
So,
Carrie cuts you off. Go on.
yeah, and so it was good. So my parents got divorced, and we were living in Brooklyn, and my mom met a guy immediately who was the greatest guy in the world, and they wanted to get away from it all. So we moved to Hollywood, Florida, because my aunt lived there.
Did you like it?
I
mean,
I
going
didn't
from-
want to go,
Well, your friends. You leave
all
all
my
your friends,
and I played sports every day in the street, and it was
Horrible.
and it was good schools, and I'm going to the
Florida.
school I went to was very racist and very
in Florida.
yeah, the junior high school I went to was really sad in a way. There was a lot of people who were just like, they used the N-word, and it was, it was
Seriously?
yeah, and they just
Are
hated.
you Jewish?
Part.
So were they anti-Jews
More
also?
anti-blacks and anti anything that wasn't Southern white conservative.
horrible.
Southern white trash.
Kind of.
What
yeah,
town is this? So
Hollywood, Florida.
Okay,
But
so-
it got better because
Okay.
when I went to my high school, it was terrific and smart teachers and all
Oh,
this
okay.
stuff.
All right.
But we moved to Florida, and my mom had 3 more kids.
Yes.
My sister, and then my stepfather, who was
So there's 5 of
there
you?
were 5 of us,
Wow.
and now there's 3 of us, and that's a whole other story.
What do you mean?
My-
Why 3?
Because my sister died in 1997,
Oh,
and
no.
one of my
Yeah.
brothers died in 2006.
Why is everyone dying? What was
My stepfather, this is the first part of it. My stepfather was 37. He got cancer when he was 36.
37? Oh my
And he
God.
died when he was 37. Now I'm the oldest, and I'm the head of the family.
Did you have to provide financially?
I worked
Oh my
3
God,
jobs,
that's
and of
hard.
course we got, there was a church in the neighborhood that gave us food, and
Oh, Eddie,
let
that's
my,
horrible.
My brothers go to day school, so I can go to school myself.
But
and
what
work.
about your biological father? Did he send money?
He got away with murder. Him and I got really close later in life, but at that time he was starting to make money, and he wasn't giving it to us.
Oh,
Between my
that's
sister and I,
terrible.
he gave us $125 a month. And we
Oh,
could
that
hardly live.
sucks.
But he married someone who had 2 kids, and I came to New York in the summer. We went to go see Springsteen in concert at something at Madison Square Garden, and they're doing coke, and they're dressed nice, and they don't have jobs, so where do they have all this money? Me and my sister were in rags, and we're like,
Oh,
and they didn't even
no.
offer us. We didn't know what coke was, but they didn't offer. You know what I mean? It was kind of like these, it's like we're like poor kids in Florida. We had no money, but we had so much fun.
You
We
did?
had
You were
a
a
lot-
happy kid?
My mom was the funniest person in the world.
She was.
Yeah, she was the funniest. She was the reason why everyone in our family is very funny.
What'd she die of? So your stepfather dies of cancer?
He died of cancer. My mom died a couple of years ago. She had everything. She was born with rheumatic fever, but she was such a tough
Yeah.
cookie that she'd like knock it down. Then she got MRSA.
It's a
and she
mental
was dying.
thing.
She was like,
I
"Fuck
don't even know
that!"
what MRSA is.
It's like the
An infection.
disease and
Yeah.
infection in
Oh.
the skin. And then she had emphysema, and she had all
Oh,
these
shit.
problems.
Okay.
But when she died kind of like the end of The Godfather. When he dies, he's playing with his grandchild, and
yeah.
he's running around, and his heart stops.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened to my mom.
How
playing
old
with her
though?
grandchild.
playing with
My
ladies.
grandchild was 8, I think, at the time.
But how old was she?
78.
Okay, she was almost
Yeah.
80.
77.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh.
But you know what? And she was my best friend, and we laughed, and she loved comedy. She was
She
my
would come to your shows?
Oh, all the time.
Now, the
Even when she
siblings-
couldn't walk, she would come to the shows.
So the
Really?
siblings who passed away were your real.
My real sister, my sister and I were with my father and mother. Then my mom had the 3 kids with my stepfather. But when my stepfather died, the little baby was 1, and the twins were 3 or 4.
So you were like their father.
I was there. I've been their father through their life, and then so now there's only 3 of us left. My one brother lives in Florida, and the other brother is here in New
This is
York.
like a lot of tragedy.
A lot of
Eddie.
tragedy, a lot of death, a lot of
Why do
tragedy.
you have a good? Seem to have a good. What do you call it?
Because
A
we've
good-
been through so much shit, and we just had to laugh. That's the way to get through all that kind of stuff.
Now I think I remember talking about how your sister died. She died of.
She's got messed up with heroin. My sister
Right.
was the greatest singer I'd ever heard. She
She
blew
had
me
a
away.
child. She had a child.
She had a child who's my nephew's 32 now. He's a superstar.
Wait a minute. So she was a. What kind of songs did she go out?
She
and
was
sing?
like Bonnie Raitt, and she was that
Oh, I
good.
love that kind of
and
music.
you know, Phoebe Snow, I got to work with her in a show. It was one of my heroes, and
Oh,
she
yeah,
said, "Your sister is Jodie? Oh, she's one of my favorites."
Are
I
you
mean,
shitting me?
Shaka Khan loved my sister. My sister had a voice that blew people away.
Where did she sing? Like
all over New York and different clubs, and with
She
background
got mixed
singing.
up with heroin.
Got mixed up with
Heroin is
heroin.
the worst thing you could.
It's
anybody-
it's an end
like-
And
game.
she got clean, got completely clean,
Yeah.
got the custody of my nephew back. She had
Yeah.
lost custody to the heroin. Everything was going really great. And one night, we don't know what happened because she can't tell.
Moment of
She
weakness.
did it, and somebody was there, I guess, and we,
It's- you
came
know,
to
And the
all
problem is the reason why they die is because when you get clean,
That's right.
you now go back to your tolerance for it is 0.
zero. So her heart stopped immediately.
But she went to the amount that she would do when she left it.
right.
Right.
Probably.
I know
Her-
two people whose children died, and that's exactly what happened. They had
Right.
come back from being clean, everything's good, everything's great. One time,
Boom.
out.
Yeah.
Out.
So it was pretty tough because
So
we were really close. So
Did
all
you
of us.
take over then her child? Were you?
I helped raise him, but his father and I went to
Oh.
college together, and
Oh.
he's a great guy. And he helped my nephew get work, and my brother-in-law started Law and Order, ended up directing episodes, but he was the director of
Wait, your
photography.
brother-in-law started Law and Order? The
He
TV
would no,
show?
he started working there at the beginning.
Oh.
And then he was like an electrician, then became a lighting guy, then he became the director of photography for a million years,
Oh.
and then he was the director. And he got my brother work, he got my nephew work. So everybody raised everybody.
That's great.
Yeah,
Wow.
we're very close. We're still, there's
I
a few
love
of us
that.
left, and we really are crazy about each other.
That's
It's
so
still
cool.
good.
Here's what I didn't know when I was
Yeah,
looking
because
up.
Patty hates all her sisters.
Yeah.
That's
some
absolutely
people,
not true.
some people
I
do.
fucking love my sisters.
Good. I
I'm
fucking
so
love
gla-
your sister too.
I'm actually going up to see them on
I love her
Sunday.
sister. She
I
knows
love
that.
my siblings.
I'm
too.
Yeah.
like
I
very
used to be
close.
in love
We
with her
are very
sister. I
close.
was
We
so
are-
shy around her sister a long time ago.
Yeah,
Because she's
she's
very
gorgeous.
sexy.
Yeah.
She was gorgeous.
She
She
intimidated
still
you.
is
Yeah,
hot.
no, yeah.
She
Yeah,
had that
re-
long, beautiful blonde hair with
She
the
was
big
just so
lips.
nice
She
to
was
me
just
too. She was
beautiful.
lovely. you
I
know.
love her sister. Sisters are great. And she's funny just like Carrie. Look,
Yeah.
hello. You know,
Yeah.
you
But
see
she
this
wasn't
gorgeous-
like that back then. She was a little more shy.
More
Really?
demure. Yeah.
She had a little more class.
That's so funny.
You're in a class by yourself.
I am in
Literally,
a class by
you're
myself. I have
literally
no
in a class by yourself.
You know what I didn't know about you? I didn't know you had a son.
Yeah, a lot of people
What?
didn't. Yeah, see?
Get
When
out!
did
All
you
right,
have a
you
son?
keep
And
kicking
he's
me
grown.
out.
He's grown.
What'd you do?
Yeah.
The Ancestry.com and you got nailed?
Yeah, no.
No, what-
Not at all. This is a great story.
Okay, let's
And
hear about
but you're
your
going to
son.
judge the story early. I know it because everyone
Okay,
does.
I'm not gonna
So
judge.
wait
We'll-
till what
we'll
happens
wait
at
till
the end, okay?
Okay, we'll wait.
My sister and brother-in-law lived 2 buildings over from me.
Your sister and your brother-in-law. Okay.
They lived 2 buildings over from me.
Okay.
That was when I lived on 1st and 9th for 10 years when I was running the Paper Moon, and I put all the comedians up that didn't live in New York in my little tiny futon in my apartment.
Oh, you
all
did?
the
You
comics.
let them stay at your
yeah,
place?
the LA comics, the Chicago,
Boston guys,
all
yeah.
everybody stayed on that. Men and women. I sometimes had like 4 people. I remember Linda Smith was in Boston, and Liz Winstead, and Zito and Bean. They were all 5 of us in this tiny studio.
I love Linda Smith.
Oh God, I love her.
So
But then
funny.
I could
Okay.
do her acts from those days still today. But anyway, so I had this little apartment. My sister says, my brother-in-law called me. Your sister's friend is over here. She's too drunk. I don't want her to crash here because the baby's just born. And now she lives 2 hours north, upstate. And would you let her sleep on the futon? Sure. She sleeps on the futon. She passes out. It's like 2 in the morning. I'm up all night. It's 5 in the morning. I finally go to bed in my bed. I wake up at 8 in the morning in the middle of having sex.
What do you mean by that?
There.
She climbed on.
She started
Like a bird.
Yeah,
a perch.
Yeah, and and it was a fun. For some people, and in some situations, it would be horrible, but it felt really. It was a
It didn't
great.
feel like you were being raped.
No, I didn't
felt
feel
like a
like it.
good
It felt
thing.
like, wow, this is pretty fun, and I'll continue to do this without, complaining.
And there was no condom, obviously.
No, because that
He was
one
asleep.
time made a baby. Now I didn't know that, and she didn't realize that because she had a boyfriend, and she went back upstate to
Oh.
her boyfriend, and then all of a sudden she's pregnant, and they think it's this guy's, and then
Didn't she think, well, it could be you?
she didn't remember it. She didn't think it
'cause
could
she
be
was
me.
drunk?
Um,
Who knows?
I don't think she was drunk in the morning. I think by the time the baby was born, she still thinks it's her boyfriend.
I
She
see.
doesn't think anything else.
Yeah.
Well,
And it came out looking exactly like you.
Well, the boyfriend's Puerto Rican, and it didn't come out Puerto Rican. Well, the boyfriend actually had left, and she had met another guy while she was pregnant who was a really nice guy who said, I
I'll
love
take
you,
care
and
of
I'm
the
going to
baby."
take care of the baby. The baby's born. He looks like me, but she doesn't look like me right away. She doesn't know. She's freaked out. She can't figure it out. A few years go by. She finds
She doesn't
a diary.
remember she banged you?
That's how good I am. And,
You left a
I'm
lasting
memorable.
impression.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, so I gave her the red coat, and no.
I gave you
So,
the red. It's a
so
callback.
yes,
All
that's
right.
what happens. And so anyway, so she finally figures it out, and I guess he's 7 now, and she already has another child with this. She
And now
realizes
she knows
that
it's
she
yours.
finds a diary that said, "Oh my God, I slept with Jody's brother, my sister
Okay.
Jody's
All right.
brother Eddie." So she doesn't want to tell me. She knows what I'm doing. She knows I'm a stand-up. She's come to the club a couple of times. I don't,
Did you bang her again?
No,
Oh,
no,
that
I
was the
didn't.
one time?
That was one time.
Go on.
Okay, yes, dear.
Cutting in.
All right,
Sorry. May I ask
so
you?
anyway, so he finally gets old enough. He's 11 and says, "Who's my real father?"
Ah.
And she takes out an 8x10 and says, "This guy." And she goes, "Do you have any other 8x10s?"
Ah!
He says,
She gave me a headshot.
"Yeah, yeah, literally." And so he wants to meet me. So she finally tells me after not knowing how to tell me, and
Ooh, that's a
like
tough one.
freaked out a little bit.
You freaked out.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Because
denial.
that should have been.
Should
That
have
pissed
known
me
about
off
it a long time.
because you could have bonded with
Could
him
have
as
raised
a
him.
child.
The hardest part about this story, and this is the sort of the end of it, but I'll go back and finish the whole thing, is that my father and my sister never got to meet my
because
son.
they had died by
Yeah.
then. Oh, that is heartbreaking.
So finally, I tell my mother, and she's thrilled. I got another grandchild. And so I'm doing she's going to bring him down to New York City for me to meet him.
Oh my
I'm
God.
hosting that HBO show we used to do in Bryant Park.
Which one?
And I remember the comics on the show because I was so nervous. It was HBO had this Scott Krantz booked it.
Right.
And it was Judy Gold, Greg Giraldo, Dave Attell, and Louis Black, and I was hosting.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was
Powerhouse
yeah,
show.
Heavy
powerhouse
hitters.
show. So I'm out there, and they're out in the audience somewhere, sitting out there. I'm like, doing I hope he thinks I'm funny, So anyway, the show's over, and he walks up to me, and I just fell in love with this
Oh
little
my
boy,
God.
and now we're the best friends in the world. 10 years ago, he decided to become a comedian.
I saw that.
How
And-
old is he now?
31.
He looks like he's 20 in the picture.
Yeah.
I want to see a picture of him.
He's
Yeah,
so cute.
I
He
have.
looks like a musician.
I need to see a picture
He's
of
tall
him.
and skinny with
He's
long
6'4",
curly hair.
But
very
at
handsome.
the time, how old was he when you met him?
11 and a half.
Okay, so you bonded from the moment you met
The
him.
moment we were nervous and shy a little bit, the two of us, but then we're so close. He just was here a week
So
and
he
a half
stays
ago.
with you?
He stays with me, and we just have the time of our lives.
How about you and the mother? You friendly with her, or is that weird?
I don't feel weird at all. She
Should have
raised him
punched her
beautifully.
right in the face.
You know what she did was really nice? She was so apologetic. She flew down to Florida to my mom and bought her lunch and said, "I'm
Sorry,
so
I'm a
sorry. I
whore."
screwed up.
Stop, Carrie.
I blew your son." And,
she didn't, obviously.
Well, that's how she started.
But,
And,
maybe she was trying to protect you.
She thought she was protecting everybody.
You know what, though?
That's
there
what
was
everybody
a
thinks.
reason that happened.
worked out the
you
way
would
it
have
worked.
never had a child.
Yes, and I'm so happy because I raised all these little children, and I
And
already
you're a
had
great
children. I was
father.
fine with it. I was fine not having a child as I look for the picture to show you.
Yeah, I'm
it's very
telling
close
you,
by.
that was meant to be.
Yeah.
What does his comedy act like?
He's very funny. He's really, and you know how I know, like Dom Irera said, your son's very funny. Funnier than you. I go, of course he is.
What's his name?
Daniel.
Daniel what?
Dan Madonia. Madonia.
Doesn't he look like a musician, for God's sake?
Oh, my God. I don't know if anybody could
Tall
see
and
that.
skinny.
Yeah.
Can you
Put
see
that up
that?
to
Yeah.
the camera. The guy,
Very handsome. Looks like Matthew McConaughey in a sense.
he does look a little like Matthew
Yeah.
McConaughey.
McConaughey. Hey.
Hey,
Well,
hey.
he's definitely good looking.
Yeah, how
Where
did
does
that
he
happen?
live? He does look like it. Where does he live?
He lives in Los Angeles. And
Oh.
Mitzi Shore at the Comedy Store took him in, not knowing. He didn't want to get in like, I'm Eddie Brill's son.
Are you kidding
Right,
me?
right.
Yeah, because he's has so
Well,
much
a lot
pride.
of kids do that.
Right,
A lot
and
of kids
and
do
she
that. They don't- they
loved
don't-
him like she loved me and took him in, and
When did he tell her? Did he ever tell her?
eventually.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't like to. I noticed that too. Like, they don't like to say that their parent is.
Well,
a,
they don't. They want to get in on their own,
Right, married. They're
petard.
right.
That's not the
You
word.
know-
Petard.
Yeah.
My daughter does stand-up comedy.
Yes, I know. I saw a picture recently, and I go, "Oh my God, she has the same last name, Rosborough."
She has
No.
Cornfeld.
I
She's
know. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
She's Cornfeld.
Yeah.
But she also
She's cornbread,
doesn't want
Cornfeld.
any help from me. And, she's going up for this competition on Wednesday. And I'm like, yeah, why don't you just show me the set, and I'll give you my ideas. She goes, I'm good. I
Ah.
go, you're good? You don't want me to look at it? Or
Tell her to give it to me. I'll look at
Yeah,
it.
she's
You know,
like, she
one of
doesn't
the-
want any help from
I'll
me
tell
ever.
you a great story in my life quickly that George Carlin, my hero,
Oh, my
who
God,
became my friend, said
Became
called
your
me
friend?
up, called me up and said, "I want you to teach my girlfriend stand up." And I go, "But you're George Carlin."
Oh,
He
my
said,
God.
"She'll never listen to me."
Oh, wow.
So it's the greatest compliment that he wanted me to do it. But it's interesting how in the same family they don't want to do it.
No.
But I'll help your daughter if she wants.
Really?
Yeah, I will.
I'll tell her
Yeah.
because,
I help a lot. I still
she's-
help people with their sets for
she's
television.
very
and
You
everything.
know who's
proud.
a comedian now?
Who's that?
I met her the other night. Kevin Meaney's daughter.
Yes,
who looks
Kate.
exactly
Kate.
like him. She's so
she's
cute. I
so
love
great.
her.
I've been
She's
in
a
touch
doll.
with her ever
Beautiful.
since the.
She looks
yeah.
like a little Brooke Shields,
Yeah,
and she looks like her father.
yeah.
Yeah,
she's
she's
a really
gorgeous.
a
She
doll.
called me at the beginning and said, "I want to do this, and can you help me?" I said, "Sure," but she ended up doing without my help.
Oh, really?
But yeah, she's great.
But she's been on stage already, Kevin Meaney's
Yeah,
daughter?
Yeah.
she's done Gladys's room.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and not, in the history of comedy, the sons and daughters of comedians are not always really great.
Well, I remember
But
when
there are some that have really been terrific.
George Carlin's daughter did stand up for
Oh,
a
well.
very short. I loved her book.
Yeah.
But
Kelly.
she did, yes, and she did stand up and then stop. They all, I think it's
Well,
too
no,
much
Marion
pressure.
Groden
Is phenomenal.
is
Very
phenomenal.
funny,
Yeah.
yes.
'Cause
And
I-
her father's the
Yeah, and
kick-ass.
he is also too with
He's
his timing,
hilarious.
his timing, and his
hilarious.
everything.
And
So
Yeah, so some are
yeah,
really
so
good.
it's not sometimes
It
they fall
happens.
real close or even
Yeah.
better,
Yeah.
and then other times
Yeah,
they
Marion's
fall
so
very
funny.
far away.
I feel like when the parent is that big, like Richard Pryor had Rain Pryor, and now
Right.
she's a singer.
yeah.
She doesn't really do comedy, I don't think,
But it's
anymore.
funny.
that,
stuff.
didn't he have? Oh no, that's Muhammad Ali.
I was working in Australia years ago, and which is one of the greatest places in the world to work. And she was on the show before me, so I got to watch her. And
Doing
she was
comedy?
comedy and music, and she was hilarious. And the
Really?
music was great too.
I think she sings beautifully.
Yes.
Jack Hoffman always posts
Oh,
things
yeah.
all over Facebook, and he put up a video of her singing, and I was like, oh my God, she's so talented.
Oh yeah.
She's really good. So you perform all over the place, like you
Yes.
go to Europe.
And well, just the last part, my son and
Oh, yeah,
I
go
do
ahead.
stand up together a lot. Like we're going to do Chicago in October together. We've done it a lot, and we give each other lines.
Two
Is he
man
funny?
show?
Is
No,
he very
yeah,
funny?
Three-person show.
Don't you wish you still worked at Letterman? Well, if Letterman was still on the air, they
Well,
could
he
have
got-
gotten him on.
Letterman liked it. Letterman wanted to meet him, and he came by, and we
Oh, he
sat
was
and-
doing comedy at the time when
he
you were at
kind of
Letterman?
just started.
Probably
yeah.
brand new,
And,
too new for Letterman.
Yeah, and he was too new, and but Letterman was really nice to
Was
him.
nice
and
to him?
Very nice.
Now, how
and
many years were you working Letterman?
17.
You were
Oh, my
booking.
God.
You
I was
were
booking for
all
11.
the comedians, and
Yeah.
everyone was like,
Not
you
every.
must
There was
have-
a couple that I didn't book, like Seinfeld and,
Me.
and you, and Mrs. Seinfeld
Me.
and you.
You never
and,
tried, though, did you?
I don't think I tried
Yeah.
because that wasn't.
It was so hard. There was about 4,000 comics who wanted to be on from all over the world, and I could book 12 or 15. And I
Right,
had to
but-
put on 7 or 8 that already had done it the year before. The regulars. There were regulars like it was
Jake
Jake
Johansson.
Johansson, Brian Regan,
Did it a million
Jim
times.
Gaffigan, Wendy Liebman,
Mitch
and
Hedberg is my
Mitch
favorite.
Hedberg, yeah.
But you also had to have that kind of an act. You had to be TV ready,
You had to-
TV
and
clean.
you also had to be quirky.
And I didn't want.
He was looking for
right.
quirky.
I didn't want to
acts.
be that.
It
I
was set up
couldn't say
punchline,
not.
set up punch.
I had to say
Sometimes,
fuck whenever I
sometimes.
felt like it, or
like,
whatever.
Jake Johansson's a storyteller, and he did the show the most. So not everyone had to be the same, but he liked a certain kind of quirkiness.
Now, Jake
Like when I-
Johansson, didn't he do like a character and then drop the character and then put the
I
character
don't know.
back on again?
I don't know, but it's a charactery kind of a thing, but it's really who he is.
But so that's not a character when he goes, oh, he
No.
does that whole
No,
like.
it's his act.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But it's
like
not
in
a
real life,
character.
he acts like that.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, I always thought it was like kind of like he's putting on, like how Bob
Yeah.
Goldthwait would put on kind of a character
the
in
most
emo
brilliant,
Phillips.
one of the most brilliant comics. Those two are two of the most brilliant
Emo?
comics, Emo and Goldthwait.
Yes.
I almost quit when I saw Goldthwait because it was like I could never be that smart and good.
Was that when he was doing the screaming? Because
Yeah.
he dropped the screaming
Yeah, he
now,
did.
right?
Well,
He
that
dropped
was a
it now.
big.
He's
Now
a
he
great
dropped
director
it, but
now.
he.
Really?
Yeah,
It
incredible.
was the whole thing with him and Kinnison that they were so much alike or whatever,
Yeah, I
and
guess
it was
so,
like,
yeah.
but it wasn't.
Wasn't.
They were.
It was
But he
too
was Bob Cat.
different.
He was like a dumb kind of a.
The character, but he was really brilliant.
Really
Same
brilliant.
with Emo Phillips. He was charactery.
Emo was amazing.
and just one of the smartest people I've ever met as a
Really?
human. And
He
then-
married a comedian.
Yeah, he
didn't
married
He married
Judy
Judy
Tenuta,
Tenuta.
but
Judy
she
Tenuta.
denied it the entire time.
Yeah.
I went on the road with her, and she would go off and make phone calls, and we would all be like, "Who are you talking to?" And she goes, "Oh, just a friend of mine, emo."
My husband.
Yeah, exactly. And somebody said she was married, and we're asking her, "Judy, you married?" And she goes, "Oh, I don't discuss that. I don't discuss my private life. Like, why wouldn't you
Why-
say
yeah.
that you're not
Did they ever
married?"
have kids? Cause
I don't think so.
Because
One-
I loved
one
her
ti-
too.
I
I loved
love
her.
her. I
constantly.
think
was
she's
so good to me,
hilarious.
and we worked a lot together. And she asked me, I think, to open for her when she did her Showtime special. So I was working in Boston, and I said, "Yeah." I told the Boston Club, "Look, I'm going to New York. Judy Tenuta wants me to open for a special. I'm not on it, but they're
The
shooting
HBO
the
special?
audience.
Oh,
they're
okay.
shooting the audience while I'm on stage. So a lot of the laughs that."
Oh, it's from
reactions
you.
are from me, which is very fun.
That's cool.
It happened a lot for me. I booked Schimmel and other people.
You
But
opened up a lot of audiences.
Yeah,
And
for-
your act, if I remember, because you're not blue at all. You're not.
I
you
wasn't,
don't curse.
but
but
a
you're.
little bit.
But you're very. A lot of your material is very clever, very clean.
I
very,
love Carlin, and that was
Yeah.
my guy. So Tenuta asked me to come. So I get in the car and I get to the this thing, and who shows up is there's Emo outside, and he says, come with me, come with me. Obviously, his wife was doing the special, and he wants it to be good. And he turns around, there's a big fur ball on his back, and I said, Emo, you got a big fur ball on your back. He goes, I know. And then we just kept walking, and he was just joking, you know, like, he took it off. You know?
Well,
he's so funny.
What was he like? Like, he doesn't go, well, he doesn't talk like that. He's a regular guy.
Talker.
But you know what? He dropped the act once at, what's his name's show in New Jersey, Vinnie Brandt's room. He dropped it. I forget who opened for him. Maybe it was
He was going to do Letterman, and we were going to have him not do the voice.
But he didn't do, I heard it wasn't as funny without the voice. Is that
That
true?
voice
I don't
is
agree.
great.
I
don't agree.
I think that material was just spectacular and dark. And,
it was so dark
I love
about
dark.
killing and all
You
that
know who
kind of
also isn't? I just worked with. I opened for Gilbert Godfrey.
Oh yeah.
You know,
He
he's
makes me
so
laugh.
frail. They're bringing him on,
Yeah.
they're carrying him on stage, and all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden off stage, he's like, "Can I get a Diet Coke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I
It
get
is
a?
pretty good.
Can I get a? Do you have anything
It's just a very sad thing
sweet?"
happened the other day. His wife's on Facebook, and the kids. I
Whose
love
wife?
his kids, Gilbert.
Oh.
And their dog died, and it was like I just saw them, and they were just so sad.
Is that
It was
a
so
sad day?
It was a sad day for everyone.
their dog?
Sorry to bring that up.
I'm not a big fan of Gilbert's, but you
yeah.
know, he's wasn't the nicest to me.
Oh,
but,
if
you
someone's
know,
not
once,
nice to you.
once that happens, I never find them funny.
Tell the
It's
story,
hard to find them
Patty.
funny.
Tell
I can't
us
tell the story,
No,
but
you
you
gotta
told the
tell
story.
the story.
I told the story
No, you
already.
have never told it on our show.
I haven't?
No.
All right, here's my Gilbert Gottfried story. So, Fred Suss, who was
Yes.
the
If you could do it fast.
okay. Oh my God, it's too much pressure. Fred Suss, who was the president of what was the name of that agency?
See, this is all nonsense.
Show world.
No, he was like the biggest agency for comics. It was the
William Morris.
William Morris, thank
Right,
you. Okay,
okay,
Carrie.
thank
I
you.
always need Carrie here to fill in the blanks. So William
I
Morris
need her
agency.
to fill in the blank.
Her assistant sees me at Comedy U Grand. She goes, "You got to come down to Catch a Rising Star. You're going to be signed. This guy, Fred Suss, is going to love you. You're going to be signed. You're the greatest thing ever." I'd only been doing comedy a year. I'm like, really? I get all dressed up. I wear my white jeans and my white boots, and I'm like wearing a ridiculous hat. My hair is big. I go up there. I do my set. I come off, and she goes, "There he is." And she's all drunk. The girl who got me there, she goes, "There's Fred Suss. Just talk to him. He's going to love you." I go up to him, and he's talking to Gilbert Gottfried. He goes, "I'm sorry." He goes, "I'll talk to you a little later. Why don't you just hang out at the bar, and we'll talk later." This is like 9 o'clock. Okay. 10 o'clock, I kind of walk over and I go, "Is this a good time?" No, not really. And Gilbert goes, "No, why don't you go over there?" Okay. Stupidly, I stayed till like 2 in the morning because I thought Fred Suss was really going to, but Fred Suss and Gilbert were just fucking with me. Okay. So they thought it was very funny. So finally at 2 in the morning, I'm the only one in the bar. I'm standing against the wall. Fred Suss goes, "Okay, it's a good time to talk to you. Come on over. So I walk over, and they're both drunk. And he's leaning against the bar, Fred Suss, and he goes, "Gilbert has something to say to you." And I think, Gilbert, because I just met him the night before, I thought he was hilarious. I told him how funny he was, and he's the best comic. And I'm like, "Yes, Gilbert." He goes to me, "I want to suck your big, black, Jewish bush." And then he starts like, she's laughing. I'm like, he puts his tongue in his mouth like it's a cock in my mouth, going like this. And
Is that what that means?
Yeah, I think that is what it means. So I am standing there like, what is going? Like here, I think this is the head of the William Morris agency, and he
Right.
just now I realize these two have just fucked me all night long with that. And then Gilbert's calling, saying I have a big black Jewish butt. And I go, first of all, I'm not Jewish.
Yeah.
And I go, second
And
of
it's
all,
blonde.
I go, second of all, I go to Gilbert because I heard he lived with his mother. I go, "Why don't you just fuck your mother and get it over with?" Okay. So then I go downstairs, and I'm like crying. Like, because it's the saddest,
Where, at the
meanest.
Improv?
No, at Catch a Rising Star.
okay.
And fucking Susie Essman comes downstairs. She goes, "What are you doing down here crying?" And I go, "I'm so upset because Gilbert." She goes, "Don't you know that's how fucking Gilbert is? You don't take anything personally
Right.
what Gilbert says. He's just a horrible, miserable, angry person." I go, "But
Right.
I've been here all night for 7 hours."
Anyway, Patty, make sure you do the shout-outs. I have a spot right now.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
going for you. Wait,
But
wait.
Eddie,
Are you
I don't think you'll be here when I'm done because I'm
Okay.
doing a 20. You'll be here
I'm
after
here,
my
yeah.
set.
I'm talking to you for a little while longer.
Yeah,
Is that
I'm
all right?
okay. I'm
Yes,
good.
I'm so happy you're here
I'm happy. I'm so happy
because
to see
I love you to death.
I love you so
anyway,
much
I'm going
too.
to run and do my spot.
Go
if you're
knock
still
'em
here,
dead.
I'll come
And
back.
then
Good.
you come back. Let's
and
see.
it was nice to meet you, Kat.
Katarina, her
Yeah.
daughter, who sings
Yes,
gorgeously.
we actually met in. I was warming up America's Got Talent once, And
how
I
was
did
that?
it once.
Must be so
It was
horrible.
so hard. It was horrible. And
Joey
they had
Cola
me there
did
for
that,
12
right?
hours.
12 hours.
Yeah, it was the most difficult.
But do they even listen to you? I mean, do they
Well,
listen?
what I did was I didn't do stand-up. I start because the crowd's not paying attention. So I went to the crowd and sat next to people and started interviewing little kids and having great.
And it was
Art
on the mic.
Linkletter
It
kind
was
of-
on the mic?
Yeah. And they were like, "Well, you're supposed to do this." I said, "Look, I know best in this situation.
Right.
I kept that crowd." And Stern at the end goes, "Whoever that guy is," and I had met him before. He didn't realize it was me.
Right.
Whoever that guy is, God bless him. He's the hardest working guy I've ever seen.
Really? Howard
Funny
Stern said
and
that?
great. Yeah.
Oh, that's so
it was
nice.
really nice.
I think he was very good to comics, Howard
yes.
Stern, right?
Yeah, he was great to comics.
So, so then that job didn't last for you?
No, they were auditioning people to be the warm-ups
yeah.
eventually, and there was 4 people doing it. And I didn't listen to the execs as much because with their suggestions were not
stupid.
Yeah, they were ridiculous.
And you had already done Letterman warm-ups
yeah, I
for
did
a million
Letterman.
years,
I did,
17 years.
And I've done a million shows. I did Saved by the Bell. I was
You
one of
went
the
into
early
the-
warm-ups.
I read that.
Yeah.
I read that on your thing. So wait, you actually did
I did it for like a season,
And what was Screech like? That's the
they
first
were all
question.
little kids. They were very young. It was early on.
Oh, wow.
And
They were like teenagers.
Mr. Belding is my friend all these years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's the greatest guy. Yeah.
You know Mr. But you probably watched that show,
Yeah.
Adam. You're
That's
young
good.
enough to
You know
have
what was
seen that
the
shit.
best thing about that show
What?
was across the hall, literally 3.5 feet across the hall was the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
And did you?
I would go over there. I'd watch a little bit of the tapings.
Wait,
in the
they'd let you
breaks.
in? You could go in?
I'd go to the back area, and there was the dressing rooms were back there, and I'd see a lot of friends. I saw Dennis Miller at the time, and was working, and then he came in and watched me warm up for a little bit.
Johnny
and-
Carson did, or Dennis
no,
Miller
Dennis
did?
Miller.
Oh, okay. Dennis.
And it was really great. And then there were nights the show was dark, and I would go stand on the star and go, "So anyway, a hot dog makes her lose control." In those days I didn't have much of an act. I still don't. But
No, that's so. So how did you go from warm up to talent coordinator? Because why would they use the warm up act to be the
because
talent
I w-
coordinator?
What happened
of the-
early on,
Letterman.
Letterman, they let me at the desk early on.
What do you mean they let you at the desk?
There was in the commercial breaks, they would go over the game plan for what they were going to do when they came back, or they would just bullshit and talk and have fun. And it was the executive producer and Bill Sheft.
I
would
love
go up
Bill
there.
Sheft.
Right. So so what happened was Laurie Diamond, Dave's assistant, went to Emerson like me, and we hit it off immediately. And I guess she said nice things. And then one night there was a little party, and I picked the last table chair in the back because I didn't know many people. It was early on working there, and Dave happened to sit next to me, and him, and Sheft really got along really great. So Laurie Diamond said, "Dave said come to the desk in the commercial breaks." This was early on.
Oh,
so
really?
in every commercial break, I was there, coming up with ideas for something that was going to come up, or giving Dave a suggestion, or just talking about the Beatles, or whatever.
Wait, you would come up with ideas like punchlines, or
Sometimes. Or tell stories.
Were you
or,
intimidated by him?
at the beginning, and then even later on, I'd look down and go, "That's fucking David Letterman." Every once in a while, I go, "Oh my God!"
It's like. First
After a
of all, like
while-
the Tonight Show was like the greatest show ever, and then the second greatest, I think, is just as good as Letterman.
Right.
Like he was such a
and he
like
was
a
so
genius.
great, and he was good to me, and
He was
I
good
was
to
in
you?
and it was in that family, and we would talk about comedy, and there were a few comics that weren't that in his wheelhouse.
Okay.
And we were talking about that, and I get a phone. I said, "Well, what about Colin Quinn, and what about this person, and people I knew at the time, Andy Kindler, and this kind of stuff?" And he said, and all of a sudden I get a phone call. I was on my way to Las Vegas to go do a week at Catch in Vegas.
Right.
And I get there, and as I call the executive producer, he wants you to book the comics. I went, "What?" And then I thought it's going
Wow.
to change my life.
Was that a lot of cash?
Not really. The people who did the Tonight Show, I found out, made like 5 times what I made. It wasn't very big money, but I never told anyone because it was nobody's business. But
Right.
it was kind of disappointing, the money, but the idea that I can help people's careers, and I wanted to help everybody, but
But you, so as the warm up, that's mostly
I
how
made
you
some
made your
mon-
money.
I
You
made-
made your money, but did you have to like do gigs and everything else, or
I
could
still
you live
did
on
them.
that? Could you live
I
on that
probably
money?
could have, but I went and did gigs because I love stand-up more than anything.
Yeah.
The only thing that sucked is when I was booking the show, I saw so many comics and I saw so much material.
Right.
It was hard to work on my own act.
You want to know something? I was thinking that because I was listening to. Oh, by the way, your podcast is great. It's
you.
called
The Break.
The Break
The Break
with
with
Eddie
Eddie
Brill.
Brill.
Okay, and I listened to two. I listened to the Susie Essman one. I almost on with that, and the Dave Attell one if you're a comic and he talks, the two of you talk about comedy. You talk about comedy in the old days. He talked about how he learned to write a set, which is, like with the two of you were talking, it's not like first, you talk about, I don't know, your toe and then you're this. And
Yeah.
Like he was talking about how Jenny taught him how to write
Create
a hunk.
a joke.
Create like a hunk of material where you
Right.
tag it and you this and yeah. But anyway, so people should listen to your podcast.
That's
because
good. And
it's
Kevin
really,
Meaney and Stephen Wright and Caroline Ray and Alan Havey and on and on and on. There's some great comics. Todd Barry.
And you're still doing it, right?
I haven't done it in a while.
Okay.
I was doing it up at the Stand Up New York Labs. And
Oh, yeah.
then I started getting busy with this other project, and it kind of fell off. And it's an open door. I can go back and do
Right,
it.
right.
I've done 11 of them, and I'm proud of them.
They're all. I mean, they're all like. First of all, great people. Like you got all good people on. But
Yay.
the thing is, you're like
Now
a
you
who's
get me.
who. You're like a who's who of everybody. Like in the pictures, in your pictures on Facebook, you fucking saw
Jim
everybody.
Gaffigan and,
Oh my God!
Yeah.
But my favorites are like Martin Short. Was he a
Yeah.
dick or was he nice?
He
Please
was
tell me
very
he was nice.
He was so nice. I got to book him at that comedy festival in Nebraska, and he was the greatest. He was so funny and so professional.
I love him.
And oh my God, it's my mom's favorite comedian.
I every time
I never
see
asked
him.
for autographs at Letterman.
Right.
I did at the beginning for baseball players because I'm such a sports fan. But guests and stuff, I never asked for autographs.
Right.
But my mom loved Martin Short, and she was the one I asked, and he was so nice and wrote a very beautiful thing, and he was so good.
Yeah.
He's so funny and was hilarious in when I worked with him as well.
What
Really
about
great.
like Bill Murray? Now he could be cranky. Was he a good guy?
No, he was good. He loved Letterman, and Letterman loved him.
I
and
love
he
to
was,
see the two of them together. They had the best.
He was on the very first show ever.
Oh,
He was on
yeah.
the very first show at CBS.
Yeah.
He was on the very last show. They loved each other. And Bill was so good to everyone on the staff.
Really.
Most of the guests are really nice.
Yeah.
Really 98, 99%.
Who was cranky? Anybody?
Celine Dion wasn't very nice. She was really not nice.
Why does
And
that not surprise me?
She wasn't very nice.
She is such a diva.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame because she's, to me, like I look at like a Nina Simone who sings from the soul.
Beautiful.
And then I listen to Celine Dion who gets every note right.
Right.
And it's just boring.
Yeah.
There's no soul to that.
Right.
But she's brilliant and she's great.
Yeah.
And I actually I did a show for the New York Rangers a million years ago. Celine Dion sang. She was 15 at the time. I didn't know it was Celine Dion until years later when I found the program. And she's great and everything, but she was maybe in a bad mood that day, so I'm not going to give her that. But she wasn't very nice to the people I worked with.
Right.
I
know you do remember those shitheads when I did.
But like Whitney Houston, everyone said she was so nice.
She was?
Lovely. Burt Bacharach, Jimmy Webb, all of my heroes. Don Rickles was there, and him and I got very close from him.
Don
his appearances
Rickles?
at the show.
He
and
is
that was the thrill.
I used to see him on the Tonight Show, and he was just the funniest. When he would go, they would let him go into the audience. Now, I don't know if those were setups when he would go into the audience and on the Tonight Show, but he would be so mean to people and so insulting.
And the fact that he's so sweet and loving and kind is the perfect, dichotomy of the whole Rickles
and
thing.
you just hear him talking to, the blacks,
Yeah.
and he would just say these horrible
He
things
did
about
that when Denzel Washington was on the show. He was making fun of Denzel. I don't remember word for word, but you can look it up
I
and see.
remember
It was like
Letterman would
Denzel.
get a little nervous
Yeah,
when he
he
would
would
say
be
really
that.
racist
Yeah.
things, and Letterman would go, "Oh, you know what I want to ask you, but I don't know if you can even talk about this." But Meryl Marco went on the show. I don't know if you were there the day
I
she did.
wasn't there when she worked there.
She didn't work there, but she went on and she said, "Dave, I want to read my diary to you." Do you remember this?
I don't remember it, so I didn't see it.
All right. It was very uncomfortable.
No, I know. I
And
have so
did-
much respect for her. I've read all the stuff I've seen all the little skits she's done and the books.
I think she's the funniest, but
She's
she
one of
just
the
kept
funniest.
going. She
I
kept
never-
saying, "I have something for my diary, Dave." And Dave would go, "Okay, let's put that diary away." And he's trying to grab the diary
very
from her.
funny.
And I just thought, did he know she was? It looked like she totally, that he had no idea that was happening. But
yeah, no, it was fun. And one of the greatest things, and Letterman said this too, is that theater, the Ed Sullivan Theater, is, there wasn't much of a change when Dave took the theater out. Of course, he got a new paint job, and there was a little soundproofing, but it wasn't all lit up like Colbert has it now, where it's like, a Vegas showroom. But it's very classy, old-time theater where,
it's got the balcony with the,
It's the best theater I've ever done comedy in, ever.
Really?
And I've done it around the world, and it's the best I've ever done it. It's so intimate. It's 492 seats, and it feels like they're just in your lap.
What's
It
so
was
weird
nice.
about it is you always think for comedy you need the lowered ceiling,
Right.
You know what I mean, and have it tight. But that's like a big, huge ceiling,
The
and it
ceilings
goes
were
all
way
the way
too high.
back.
But the way the setup, they have sort of like an awning
Right.
kind of a thing, and then the audience was so intimate and so close. It was just really well done, and it was so professional. It was such a great. I mean, the writers were Harvard writers, and the executive producers were the best at what they could do.
Right.
And the main cameraman, Dave Dorset, was Walter Cronkite's main cameraman.
Really?
And, I mean, everyone was the best at what they did at the job. So, Dave demanded, this perfection,
Right.
and it was really fun to try to meet that level every
Right.
day.
Were you surprised when he wanted to quit? Were you surprised?
Yeah, I was surprised. But
I was surprised.
I think he was surprised too. I think I don't know. He never told me, but I think he regretted quitting it when he did. And now he's doing this other show, and he's still great at it. The
Yeah,
one on
yeah, absolutely.
Netflix, which is brilliant.
Oh, wow. All
Yeah.
right, let's see if there's any comments that we wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I'd like to
sometimes
talk to
people write
people.
things. Let's see. Magaha. He always. Hello, Joe Magaha. Let's see. Janice Powers. Okay, nobody. Great show. Love you, Eddie Brill, Teresa Canistracci.
Oh, nice.
Do you know-
Yeah,
okay,
she's
you know her.
lovely.
Fred
She has a radio
Rubino.
show that just started.
Fred Rubino was saying hello.
Oh, hey, Fred.
Let's see if there's any questions. People are watching. Hi, Eddie. Katie Flynn.
Oh, hey, Katie.
Okay, hey, Elizabeth Gable. Rob Ross. Remember
Yeah,
Rob
I know.
Ross? I
Oh,
love
of
Rob
course.
Ross.
I still am in touch with him all the time.
All right, so no one's really asking any questions. All right. So let me see if I got any. Oh, you know what I also thought was, I loved that you had a crush on Sophia Loren.
Oh, my God.
And that you had, because I always thought Sophia Loren was like the sexiest woman that ever lived.
Yeah. the
More than
sexiest woman.
Raquel Welch, more than
And I
all
loved
of-
Raquel Welch.
She was sexy
But
also.
Sophia Loren,
The
great
lips,
actress.
the eyes.
The,
She was
the
a
beauty
great.
and
Right.
an incredible actress and swarthy, and I always loved that
The
sort
dark.
of Mediterranean, the Italian.
Adam.
Yeah.
Adam likes the dark meat
Yeah.
also.
Oh
yes.
my God! So, and I got to meet her. When I was a kid growing up, everyone had the Farrah Fawcett nipple poster.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the thing, but I had Sophia Loren.
Yes,
on the
way
wall.
sexier than
Yeah,
Farrah Fawcett.
and Farrah Fawcett was sexy in
her way. Yeah.
But Sophia Loren was great. So when I went to meet her, I was like, drool happy.
Was this at Letterman
At
that you got to
Letterman,
meet?
and she couldn't have been more classy and more lovely. And I told her that story about everyone had the Farrah, and I had, and she was like, "Oh, you're such a lovely man," and and she let me kiss her hand, and it was just,
Get the fuck out.
I
How
was-
old was she? How old was she at the time?
103. No, she was probably 68, 70. I don't
Oh,
know.
really? You know
but
what's-
she was just so gorgeous still, and so nice. There were so many nice people. It's
Yeah,
just-
yeah.
I got to sit at the piano with Burt Bacharach, who's one of my
Did you
heroes.
sing with him? 'Cause you used to
I
sing.
didn't sing with him, but one time I was walking up our little dressing room staircase, and I heard two women singing. And I just started doing the harmony. They were doing some 50s song, and I did the harmony. And they went, "Oh, you're really good." And when I got to up at the top of the stairs, it was the Indigo Girls.
Oh, get out.
And I was like, "Oh my God! If I knew it was them, I would have been nervous. I would have never done it." But I just thought they were staff members who were just singing, and I was going to join in with the harmonies.
I love that.
Yeah, so it was good. But I sang every night with the band in the warm up.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What'd you sing?
Will's gonna add some bottom. When he played they played Dance to the Music, and everyone had a little solo, and I introduced Will before solo and sang the Larry Graham part from Sly and the Family Stone.
Wow. And
Yeah.
you didn't do what Ellen Dowd or the other warm-ups did with the dancing with the crowd. You didn't do any of that.
Because Joey is the premier warm-up guy in the world, but
Joey
he's-
Cola. Love Joey Cola,
and
yep.
he's terrific, and he runs around and he's manic and stuff, and
Very physical.
And I was staying within myself. I would try to do some comedy, but Dave had a certain style, and I wanted to. I was it's like you get in a car that's freezing in the winter,
Right.
and you start it up for the guy so he can drive away.
Right.
And that's what I had to do. If I was going to be manic, it wouldn't have been a good lead-in to Dave.
What do you think's the key to being a good warm-up? Like, I did warm-up for The View, and that
you like it?
place... I did like it. There was a lot of backstabbing, though, and
That's a shame.
there was a lot of ugly shit going down. People working against you because, I took the place of some guy, and one of the producers was best friends with it. So she was always
that happened to me
at
with Dana
my
Carvey.
back.
I warmed up
Really?
Dana Carvey's show, which was brilliant, and it was just really a great show. And the director and the the creator, they both told me different things, and I was trying
Right.
to figure that out. But no, the warm ups.
But I loved doing warm-up because it was fun, and you could get them all riled up. And for
Yeah.
that place, they wanted standing ovation, crazy, screaming, dance
And
with
Dave
the
didn't want that.
That's
He
what they
didn't
want. Yeah.
He wanted and I could tell. I got good at being able to tell what the audience was like.
Right.
For Dave, he wanted to know before he came out. So I would be able to tell. I worked out my warm. We had an 18-minute warm-up.
Wow.
On the nose. It was 5 minutes of video, 5 minutes of me, 5 minutes of the band, 3 minutes of Dave. And it was.
Oh, Dave was part of the warm-up?
Yeah, he would do 3 minutes. He'd talk to the audience before the thing started.
All right.
And at 4:30 or 5:30, whatever, different days it started, different times. 4:30:00, the show would start. The warm-up started at 4:12 or 5:12:00.
Right.
There was no 1 second late. Everything was well-oiled machine.
Did you have the same act that you would do
for
every
a while,
time?
And then I would do something else for a while. I just did stuff that worked.
But yeah, I was going to say, weren't you afraid you can't try something
tried
new?
You know, there was this bit that I had because a lot of people were there were only tourists. There were very few New Yorkers in the crowd.
Right.
And Times Square had turned into Disney World, and they got rid of the Disney store.
Yeah, that's right.
And they got rid of the hookers, and so
But
I
the
had a
hookers,
joke.
and then it was all Disney.
I said they got rid of the hookers, and they put the Disney store there, and then they're bigger whores than we had before.
That's a good joke.
$80 for a sweatshirt, you're getting screwed.
Oh, that's a great
right?
joke. Yeah.
So. Eventually, one of the producers came up to me. You should not really say that because
they don't like screwed
no,
or horse.
that was okay because I said shit or whatever.
Oh.
But they just this is tourists, and they didn't want me to screw with the people who were in Times Square and all that kind of thing. It was don't make fun of them and all that kind of stuff. I remember Mike Royce was warming up Spin City, and he had to go to L.A., and he asked me to do it. And I did it, and I was, it was a long day.
Right.
And Michael J. Fox said, "You're the dirtiest warm-up comic I've
Really?
ever heard." Yeah, because I had
did
made
you
fun
say
of
that was
Julie. I
dirty?
made fun of Giuliani, and then some guy goes, that day he goes, "I'm Giuliani's nephew." I go, "Oh my God, so you know what a douche he is, and
Douche
I
is
just,
dirty?
Yeah.
I
I just kept doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I had to double down on it in the middle of this thing, and it turns out I was right. And but it,
he is a douche, and I thought he was a douche back in the day when
Yeah, he
everybody
always
loved
was.
him. I remember with Rudy Giuliani, he was always a hero. He's this.
No,
he's
he
that.
never was a hero.
He was a shithead from
Yeah.
day one. And I remember there was this beautiful garden that they had in Manhattan, and I forget where it was. And all these people had put trees in, and they were, flowers, vines growing up the walls of this building. It was this beautiful area, and everybody were planting. There were tomatoes, and it was this one beautiful area. And they wanted to put in a building, and they had stopped it, and they got lawyers, and they were Rudy Giuliani gave them the go-ahead just to plow the whole fucking thing down before any lawyers.
Yeah.
He just went against legally everything.
He wasn't
He's
good to
just
the arts. He was
horrible
he was
person.
just a bad person.
Yeah,
and,
fucking hate him.
Yeah,
All right.
and so anyway, yeah. So whatever I did, and Michael J. Fox had said, wow, you're the dirtiest. But I also warmed up Madigan Men, which was a Gabriel Byrne sitcom. It
I
lasted
love
for a
Gabriel
year,
Byrne. I don't
and
know
he
if
was
it's-
so great to me.
I used to have a crush on Gabriel
I
Byrne. He's so
understand why.
handsome and sexy, and I don't know.
And
I just like him.
just down to earth and really great, and he was so good to me.
And Irish with that accent. I
Oh
love
my
it.
God! When the warm up was over, the very first night, and it was a long night. Monday through Thursday I do Letterman, and Friday I do Madigan Men, and it was exhausting Madigan Men.
Why? Because how long was it?
Because it's 8 hours.
Oh, that's
and
a horrible.
You're right. I'm doing
warm-up.
18 minutes, one night, and
Yeah,
I'm doing 8 hours the next.
How do you
And
think of funny shit after the first hour?
I didn't do all stand up. I would learn the crowd, learn their names, talk to them,
Yeah,
go
yeah,
back
that's
and
what you
forth,
do.
and work them, interview them, play with them, go back,
Yeah,
callbacks,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that kind of stuff.
And it doesn't have to be funny always with
No.
warm up. You can be just chatty,
Fun.
and then
I was fun, and
Yeah.
and to keep them awake because they have to stay awake and applaud and laugh at the right places.
Right, right.
So at the end of the thing, I introduce all the cast, and I bring out Gabriel last, and he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say," and he makes this whole speech, and I'm wondering he's talking to me. He goes, "Big hand for Eddie Brill. He saved the show. He saved us backstage. We're laughing our asses off."
Wow.
And I never ever in any of the warm ups I did, and I've done a ton of different warm up shows. No one ever did that, and he couldn't have been nicer. And then the cast
So he said your name and
said
got
my
applause
name.
for you.
Yeah, and he didn't do it as like he just wanted to let. It was the very first show. I don't think he'd ever done a sitcom before.
Right.
And he liked what I did.
Oh.
So when the season was over, he brought me and he said, "Look, you're one of the funniest people I've ever seen. I have this charity I want to start, and I want you to host every year." And I did that for many, many years.
Wow.
And got to be friends with him and Liam Neeson and all the Irish folks. It was
Oh,
really
wow.
good.
And you perform in Ireland too.
Yeah, I'm going back the end of October
I would
again.
love to perform in
It's
Ireland.
the best.
You know what scared me about it, though? I talked to one girl here at the comic strip, and I forget who she was. It was years ago. And she said, "Oh, I just got back from Ireland." I go, "Oh, I want to perform in Ireland. How is it?" She goes, "Well, it's good if you like being called a cunt every 5 minutes."
Oh, yeah, but they mean it. It's
But I
a
know-
different thing,
Then I thought, "Oh my God, they call you a cunt. I never want to work in Ireland." But then when you meet Irish people,
Yeah,
that's their word.
yeah.
It's
And
like,
the
"Hey,
same
silly."
thing with British. Like I said to one of the British comics, I said, "How can you say cunt on stage? If I say it in America, the show is over."
That's right.
The show is over. He goes, "Are you kidding me?" He says, "You guys say motherfucker," and I went,
right.
"Oh my god!" And I go, "Well, we don't mean fucking your mother." He goes, "Well, we don't mean pussy or vagina. We mean it's a fun term that you call your silly friend."
That's right. They go,
Yeah.
which I remember when I was in
Vagina. Who am I, a doctor? You know, we don't, you know.
in England, I remember the guy came over to the table who we had just done that show, The World Stands Up, and he comes over and he goes, "Hey, all you silly cunts, who wants a pint?" And I remember thinking,
What?
He's calling us cunts? Like, what? But that's the Irish English way.
Yeah, that's the way it is. It's fantastic.
My sister was just over in Ireland, and she said the guy was talking to her, and he was talking about Trump and talking about all sorts of things, and he was saying, "Oh, that cunt," and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, over here, cunt doesn't really mean anything. I know you Americans are all up in arms over the word cunt."
Right, and also, a fanny in Ireland means pussy.
Oh, it does?
So that's why they don't have fanny packs. They laugh when we call them fanny packs. They call them bum packs because they wear them on your bum, on your ass. So it's kind of funny that, it was weird. And also, gee is also another term. There's 10,000 terms for dick and pussy,
What's a gee, though? A gee's your
gee
vagina?
Is a vagina. And so I had my French bit. I says, the guy, his name is Guy, but it's pronounced Guy. Spelled Guy, but it's Guy, and they all laughed, and it seemed out of place. And afterwards, they go, "It means a different thing, you cunt." You fucking cunt.
I really want to. How do you get in over in Ireland?
Well,
how does that even happen?
What happened was Dennis Leary's wife gave birth prematurely in England. So I went over to go see him, and I auditioned at the Comedy Store while I was there.
In England.
And I had the best set you can ever have as an audition. And the guy was kind of a dick. He was like, you get 10 minutes and not a second more like all those other fucking Americans who come over here.
My
And
God.
I'm like, holy shit. So I have 10 minutes. I know how to do 10 minutes. So I do 9, and the light comes on. I end my last bit and crush at the end. And all these comedians who were like looking at me like, fuck him. Who does he think he's American? They were really nice to me.
Really?
And they said, you can work here So then I started working there, and I stayed for an extra few days and worked every day, got close to the comedians, became friends with a lot of them, would go over often, and a lot of them said, "You like England? Well, let me bring you to Ireland because you're going to love Ireland." And then there was like a 5-city tour.
What's the comedy scene? Is there comedy clubs in every...
Yeah.
Really?
I did, the first tour was Cork, Galway, Dublin, Belfast, and Derry.
And what was it? You did a show every weekend at a different club, or it's like every night?
Every night in Ireland. It was 5 straight nights of stand-up.
So weeknights, people are going to see comedy in Ireland?
The Empire in Belfast is one of the most storied rooms in the world, and they're tough, especially to Americans.
Oh, I bet they are. I think I would be terrified to do it.
The night I went on, there were 2 other comics on before me. They were Irish. Michael Smiley's one, who's a famous actor now. He's a brilliant comic.
I don't know him.
He's so great, and it was so fun to work with him. And he went on, and they loved him. And another comic went on, they loved him. And I went on, they were like, "We're not laughing, we're not giving up shit." And
really?
I fought them, and I got him. And it felt so good to get him. It was really good.
So, Carrie's...
How'd it go?
That was torture.
Oh,
what do you mean it was torture? Stop. You're
Okay,
so funny.
so there's like
You look flushed.
there's like 8 people in there. Okay.
Right.
So I start my act, and they're staring at me. So I go,
And your daughter's watching.
My daughter's watching, right? But forget that for a second. They're not laughing; they're staring at you. And then, so I wasn't in there to watch Mike do his warm up, where they're from and whatnot, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I go, "Where are you guys from?" And she goes, "New Zealand." And then, but that's English, right?
Right.
Yeah, that should be English.
Right. And he's from Australia.
Australia.
And they're married, right? But New Zealand has a very thick. I couldn't understand a word she was
Right.
saying.
They probably
Yeah.
can't understand you because
Yeah,
you got
right.
a New York
In
accent.
England,
No,
someone
they
yelled.
can
In England, someone yelled, "I can't understand what you're saying." Go, it's your language.
That is funny.
Yeah.
So she's going, I go, "What are you doing here?" She goes, "Well, we were in Canada." I go, "What?" She goes, "Playing polo." There's a sport
Polo.
called, not polo,
Right.
What?
Canoe.
the canoe polo.
Rock?
Canoe polo.
Not-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like
what?
like you would wear canoe as a cologne and polo as a shirt.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
so they are in that canoe thing,
Right.
and then they play water polo, in the water. They played.
Wow.
Whatever. It took about 15 minutes to actually figure out what the fuck she was doing. And then there's a guy from Italy. I mean, a
Oh
girl
my
from
God,
Italy.
And do they speak English?
Barely.
Okay.
Italy. I'm like, bueno. I go, bueno. She goes, that's Spanish. I go, same thing.
Buongiorno.
So you understand.
Close enough.
Buono and bueno. Bueno. Same
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
And the other guy's from Greece.
Oh,
Oh,
my
well, he
God.
understands.
The
Well,
Well,
International
I
House
didn't,
of
tell, I didn't
Pancakes.
tell him I was Greek.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't want to get into that
Mm.
whole thing. And then there's two, 14-year-old boys with their father,
And where are they from?
which is creepy.
Mm.
Well,
Queens.
Yeah, it is.
well, maybe
Well,
the father.
Queens.
Maybe the father
People
wants.
Well, the
Right.
father didn't even look at me once.
Oh,
Father
Marla
didn't look at me
Ackerley,
once.
tell me a joke.
Anyway,
Daniel McKenna, hey Eddie.
A lot of
Hey,
Danny
people.
Marla.
McKenna. I love Danny McKenna.
Yes.
I want to read some of the.
We already read 'em.
Kate,
Oh,
are
you
you
did?
still on?
Okay, good.
Kathleen,
But
Kathleen?
nobody asked a question. It was just people saying hey and love you and
Yeah.
Did you see Magaga?
Magaga.
Magaga
Yes.
is one of our biggest
We love
fans.
Joe Magaha.
He comes to.
Magaha.
Yeah.
There's a great comic named Chris Magaha. She's very funny. I don't know if she's related to Magaha.
What's her
Yeah.
name?
Chris.
Chris
K-R-I-S, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
All right. So, are you done?
I think we are. Let me
Yeah.
just see if I
What
got
else you
anything
want?
else. You know what I wanted to ask you about? What about the Les Moonves? Because I know
Oh.
Letterman never liked Les Moonves.
I don't know. You
Oh,
know,
you
I
can't
don't.
say.
I
All right.
no, I don't
But
know.
he used to say
I never met him.
He used to say, well, on the air, Les Moonves is the guy who got in trouble for, I don't know what he
taking
did,
his dick out
for
or
taking
trying
his
to
dick
kiss
out.
somebody
And
or-
he's the
That's
head of,
it?
he's the head of
Kissing his
CBS.
dick. Yeah.
But he's married to, who's the Asian he's married to? It's not Connie Chung.
No,
It's the
you're
other
so
one.
bad.
Connie
her name?
Chung is married to
Yeah.
Yeah, the other guy.
Maury Povich.
Maury Povich.
But she's the one who's on the talk anyway, the one
Right.
who's married to. But Letterman used to always make fun of Les Moonves, and
Even to
always
his wife.
and to his wife he
Yeah.
would make fun of her, and because she was always on the show because she was touting, Big Brother and
Right.
the talk and
And-
all these things, and he would always say what a piece of shit
Now, let me
her
ask-
husband was, and then he turns out to be a piece of shit.
Exactly.
Right.
He read right through.
I think he
Yeah.
did.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you a question. Do you still keep in touch with
No,
David?
and it's
Did-
weird. I was at a hockey game this past season, and I saw the executive producer, and I said, "Hey, are you working on that new show?" And he goes, "No." And then I talked to somebody else, the director.
Oh,
and he said-
Letterman's new show.
Yeah, and nobody's really working on the new show from
So
the
people
old show.
from the old show, he didn't bring them
Yeah,
back.
but you
No.
can't. That's like buying a business. You got to get rid of all the old
Yeah,
people.
that's
It's
what he did.
Bad
So good
habits.
for him.
Get
And the
new,
show's good.
fresh
so-
blood.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. He could
It
have
would-
kept you.
It
Yeah.
would have been nice.
Yeah. It's all right.
Okay, what about last question? What about Pauly Shore? Was he
What
an
about
asshole?
him? No.
Because
when
you lived in Mitzi's house,
No.
and Pauly Shore was
and
running
Pauly,
around.
I didn't live in her house, but I would go to her house and watch Pauly when he was a little boy. Before
How old was he back then?
Oh, it's just a little young kid. He
Oh,
was a young
really?
kid,
Oh, he
yeah.
wasn't doing comedy yet, or
No,
what?
and then
Oh,
he
as a
started
kid.
doing comedy while I was there a little later in the '80s, and he was nice. He was a,
He was a nice kid?
Mitzi was so good. She was tough, but she was good to us. And
Right.
Pauly's her kid, and Sandy. I actually lived with Sandy
Who's Sandy?
Shore, the daughter.
Was
there
she a comic too?
No.
Oh,
But she was.
She didn't get along with her mom, right?
I don't think so, but I didn't know that. But she stayed. Errol Flynn's house
Errol
that he used to
Flynn.
own was right behind the comedy
who
store.
banged every underage girl, by the
Right.
way, and like Flynn.
Right, in like Flynn.
That's
right.
what it's from. Yeah.
And so I, lived in that house with her for a little bit, also with the guy who ran the door at the comedy store. And all of the Shores were good to me. And they
Really?
Sammy later and nice. So, and then they were good to my son. So I
So
loved
you
that.
liked them all.
But I
Yeah.
loved Pauly Shore too. I was a
Was
huge.
he nice?
No, yeah, he was nice to me. He was dying for my friend Elan. He loved my friend Beth. We call her Elan in L.A.
Okay.
Right.
And he
You mean he was
wanted-
hot for her?
He was so hot for her. I go,
I'm
Elan,
so
go out with
hot
him.
for
His mother
her.
owns the store. I could be in here if you,
Right.
if you just date him. And he was such a. I loved him. I loved him in Son-in-Law. I loved
Yeah.
him in all the
He
movies
was,
he
but
did.
he's a nice kid, and the other Shores, Scotty, the brother, they were all nice, and they were very nice to me and nice to my kid, and that to me is everything.
When my kids were growing up, they loved Pauly Shore movies. There was some movie where he's got a parrot on his shoulder or something. Do you remember?
He was in Encino
Some-
Man,
oh,
right?
maybe-
I
is
don't-
that
yeah,
it?
Encino Man. I
He
don't
loved.
know.
They loved all the Pauly Shore movies.
Be honest,
growing
I've never seen any of his movies.
up. I never watched
I
them.
don't.
So
One
my
of my
kids loved-
favorite is Son-in-Law because he had like this. The way he came to this girl's house. This girl comes from a farm, whatever. He is like this weirdo in the college, right?
Yeah.
He's like Becca, like he talks weird, and she takes him home for Thanksgiving. And she says to her father, because her boyfriend tries to propose to her, but she don't like her boyfriend anymore. So she
Right.
goes, I can't because he's we're already engaged.
Ah.
So the parents flip out because she just said that because she didn't want to.
Want to get
it's such a funny movie.
Really?
Well, good.
Such
I'm
a
I
glad.
don't know. I got
But it's 100. It's
So
called
that's a funny
Son-in-Law.
question. Oh, I guess because I worked at the store in the day.
Yeah, because you used to
I'll
be
tell you
around
one of the
Mitzi, and I
greatest
just-
stories of the Comedy Store. for me.
Please.
All right.
All right.
This is one of my favorite stories in the world. And the first day at the Comedy Store, Sam Kinison sees me. I want you to be with my guys, and we hang out, and we're doing all this stuff. Fantastic. Second night, I was so drugged out the night before and partied and
I love that you did drugs.
yeah, it was really fun.
You're
but
still
I
not
don't,
the drug
I
type.
don't see you doing drugs.
You're so
really?
like
I
straight
did
and
them all.
narrow.
Yeah.
But you don't look it.
My mom used to get high. I used to get high with my mom.
Oh, my
Smoke
God.
drugs. Yeah.
Seriously. I love that.
Yeah. She for my birthday one year, she sent me a joint in the mail, and it said, "I can wish I can get you the pot of gold, but all I can find was this gold pot." And that was what.
Really?
Yeah, it
That's
was a very
funny.
funny lady. But anyway, so the second day, I go on stage, and the guy before me, and I'm not going to mention his name, he doesn't do very well. I go on. I have a decent set.
Okay.
I was a little fucked up from the night before, and I had a decent set. Well, this couple comes up to me and goes, "Look, we came to see the guy before you, and he sucked, and we'd like you to do our show." What I heard them say is for the Shriners, and it's a benefit, and it's a couple of $100, and at $200, that was $1 million for
Right.
me. I was so broke, and I was living in Glendale at a friend's house that second day. So anyway, so I go, okay, whatever. So I get the directions. There's no thing on the phone. There's no cell phones.
That's right. You just have to know the
You have to take the
directions, yeah.
Thomas guide that they have in L.A. and I got to find this place. So I'm looking for the Shriners, whatever, and I pull up, and it's the Shrine Auditorium. I misheard them.
Get
the
the
Shrine
F out.
Auditorium at the time was where the Academy Awards were being held. 8,800 seats. I'd never been in anything
That
was
big.
more than
You're getting
$600.
$200 to go.
But you'll hear why, because it was a benefit for the underprivileged children in the Los Angeles area that the cops and the firemen sponsored. So as a honorarium, so I knock at the door. I don't know. I go, I don't know if I'm in the right place. My name's Eddie Brill. Mr. Brill, follow us. And I'm like, Mr. Brill? I've never been called, except my mom was mad at me, So
It's the big
so
time.
they take me up these stairs, these rickety stairs, and I go, and I'm passing dressing rooms. It's the Coasters, the Shirelles,
Oh, no.
Jerry Lee Lewis,
Oh, no.
Jimmy Stewart, Eddie Brill. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I'll go in the room, I close the door, and I shit myself. Not literally, but I'm like, what am I, what
Right.
where's the Shriners?
This would be my worst nightmare.
I'm like, huh? So the knock at the door comes, and there's nothing in there. It's an old-fashioned dressing room. There's a sink and a fridge with some water in it, and that's it, and a sheet of paper on the table, and it has the order, and I'm following Jimmy Stewart. It's like, what does he do? So,
You tell stories.
yeah,
right?
so the guy comes in, the stage manager, and says, okay, you're here. They came to see the guy before you, and he sucked. It's like, why does everyone know that the guy before me sucked?
I
Said,
wanna
"But
know
they
who that
chose
guy
you."
is. I wanna know
I'll
who
tell
he
you
is.
off camera.
Okay.
And they say, and he sucked, and I'm like, why this? And I go, what is it? And he explains to me it's this benefit and all this. And I go, what does Jimmy Stewart do? He writes poetry, and he reads his poetry.
no.
And he says, what I want to let you know is the stage is huge. So when he's done, you got to start walking out there
yeah.
because it takes a while to get out there. Luckily, the host was Vic Dunlop, who I knew.
Oh, with
And
the eyeballs.
Right. And he
Yeah.
told me, he says, Eddie, the one thing you have to know in this room is space out the words because it goes all the way to the back
it
of the room
bounces.
and it bounces,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was the greatest advice ever.
Right.
So Jimmy Stewart's walking. He's up on stage. Well, I've never seen a flower, beautiful trees, and he's reading his poetry. And I'm like, I can't believe Jimmy Stewart. So
I'm following.
yeah,
He's
so then,
opening for
so
you.
then,
Yeah,
I don't,
yeah.
and I had
But
done
he
Star
sucks, though.
Search.
The poems suck,
the
right?
no, I don't know. I can't. I don't know. I'm hearing la 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 la
yeah,
la.
yeah.
Can't hear
Charlie
it.
Brown's
Okay.
teacher, and so I start going out, and the intro is like, I did Star Search. That's the one show I did Star Search, and they saw, and before I went on, I said, whose place am I taking? They go, Joey Bishop. I go, what? It was supposed to be Joey Bishop, and now I'm
What, the Rat
the Rat Pack, and I'm this whole night, and there's nobody with me that I know. I wish there was everyone I knew. Luckily, Vic Dunlop was there to back up the story. So I passed Jimmy Stewart, and he gives me a head nod when I walk by, and I give him a head nod, and I was like, oh! So I do the set, and I have to tell you,
You killed.
it was phenomenal. And Vic
Really?
Dunlop's advice was great. I just had to do like 12 minutes. boom, 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 good night, roar, you know, the greatest ever. Like tears came to my eyes, literally.
Right.
I never heard that much applause or
Wow.
laughter. I walk off the stage, and there's Jimmy Stewart on the side. I go, very funny, Eddie. And I'm like, oh. And then Jerry Lee Lewis pushes Jimmy Stewart out of the way and goes, very funny, son. Can I take my picture with you? And I couldn't believe this. I couldn't believe it. And I'm hanging out, and I met a girl that night who was with the posters and all the stuff.
Did you bang her?
Yeah, eventually. But eventually, I took her number and all this stuff. But then I had to go do a 1:15 at the Comedy Store that night because I was already booked. And I bombed, and the crowd was like, you suck, get off the stage. And I'm dancing around going, but Jimmy Stewart gave me a head nod. Woo!
I got a picture with him.
Yeah.
That is the humbling thing about stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
You can have the biggest kill, standing ovation, whatever, and then the next thing they're not buying it. They're like, fuck
they
you.
hated
fucking
me,
hate
that
you.
crowd.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
You know what I loved about Vic Dunlap? I worked, well, he died now. He had
That's
one
the
leg.
best thing about Vic
No,
Dunlap.
he had one leg.
Horrible.
I guess he had a
He's
wooden
great. I
leg
didn't
for a
know
while.
that.
Yeah, he had one leg, and he had, I forget what his disease was. He had something, and then his legs started to
Wow,
melt.
all the stuff I'm learning about Vic
But
Dunlap.
anyway,
I'm going to cry.
he would, after the show, he would sell eyeballs.
Yes.
And because his bit was he'd put these eyeballs in these plastic eyeballs, and it was a funny bit. So he goes, you know, I just basically do this bit on eyeballs so that I have something to sell after the show. He goes, I don't even give a shit about this bit.
Right.
I just want to sell the eyeballs.
And he makes more money selling the eyeballs.
He said to me that he bought his house, his $350,000
eyeballs?
house on eyeballs alone. And he said that he said
Can I get
that
an estimate? Just give me an eyeball estimate on the house.
he said that one day when he was on stage, I guess he was at some casino, whatever, and there was a guy from the IRS in the audience, and the guy
oh my God,
made
wanted
him,
to know how many he
and
was
then
selling.
Looked back and did what do you call it when they do
Audit.
an audit? Thank you. And he had to pay all this money back because they saw all this money that had come in that
They
hadn't
can't estimate that.
I'm telling you,
The
he
IRS
said,
really is a ball buster.
He
Yeah.
said he
An
lost so
eyeball
much
buster.
money just by doing that with the eyeballs. And true enough, after the show, he would have a string and he'd staple these little packets of eyeballs and he'd tear them off. And if people go, oh, I want to tell you, I thought you were, he goes, okay, just stand over here. He goes, you can tell me your story after. You know, $3 for eyeballs, and he'd have singles, and people would give
but
him
hold
fives.
on.
2 for
If-
$5.
If he knew the IRS was there, he should have said, I'll be selling eyeballs after the show. They're not that good. You might not want to buy any.
Yeah, right. IRS balls.
But I couldn't believe how many people bought, and everybody bought eyeballs.
Yeah, I worked with
Yeah.
him in Boston.
Thousands.
He sold all the balls
all
he
his
brought
eyeballs.
with him.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
there's a lot of balls
Vic
he had.
Dunlap. All right, well, where are you going to be? What are you working on? Well, okay, we
I'm
already
working
talked.
on. There's a friend of mine who has a rock and roll club down in the East Village called Coney Island Baby. It's a new club, and it's on 11. It's on Avenue A between 10th and 11th. He wants to start doing comedy. I'm trying to start that with him. Maybe do a weekly show so all of us can work in the city at that club. And I'm doing a thing next Wednesday just to sort of get it off the ground. To do one there.
What's the name of it again?
Coney Island Baby.
Coney Island
And
Baby
it's
down in
on-
the East Village.
In the East Village on Avenue A, and it's a really nice little club, and it seats only about 100 or
Oh,
80.
cool.
Again,
I
it's
love
a
that area.
Intimacy. The stage is nice. The sound system's great. It's for
Beautiful.
bands, so we'll see. And I'm also working on some big shows, trying to create comedy content. And if those happen, I'll be dancing and singing. But it's all stand up for me. And I'm going back to Ireland soon. I'm going to Paris again to do stand up.
So you still love stand up?
Love it more than of all the
ever.
things I've ever done. It's my
I
favorite.
know, it's
favorite.
the best.
Me
The
too.
best.
I can't. I feel
I
like
can't stop.
when I look at myself, I go, "What are you doing? Why are you still?" I just fucking love it. I can't help it.
Look at Joan Rivers and all of them.
They couldn't-
George Burns
I know.
and Don Rickles
Couldn't
and
stop it.
yeah, it's just they're
So
all,
where are you going to be this weekend? Do you have anywhere that
No, I'm
anybody could
actually
come see you?
No, not this weekend. Next Wednesday though, on the 15th, is it? Yeah.
Yes, it's the
15th. I'm going to be Coney Island Baby.
Oh,
But this
good.
weekend I'm actually hanging out with my family.
Where is Coney Island Baby?
Again, Avenue A between 10th and 11th Street.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Coney Island Baby.
I'll
And
be at
Patty,
the-
where are
Carrie,
you
I'm
going to be?
at the comic strip, 2 shows each night, Friday and Saturday. I also want to put. Oh, also I want to say thank you to the comic strip who let us do this show here, do our
Yes.
podcast.
82nd and 2nd, the comic strip. Great comedy shows.
club. Come see the shows. Adam Hineker from not the Rec Room anymore,
Right.
sort of the Rec Room. He's our producer,
Yeah.
whatever.
He's a
Adam
wreck.
Hineker.
Just a
Okay.
wreck.
And I
Yeah.
will be at the Governor's opening up for Angel Salazar.
my
How much
God.
fun is that?
Check it out.
Check it out.
Beautiful.
Friday and Saturday at the Brokerage in
Ve-
Belmore.
Very nice. And I have one more thing to say. Tomorrow night is I want to, the Ladies of Laughter, which I am a part of. They are having their competition for the girls. You know, they have it every year. And Wednesday night, it's going to be at Stand Up New York.
Great.
My daughter is trying to compete, so I hope
But
she does.
she doesn't want any help.
I don't know what she's doing, and
Who is going to be the judges?
I don't even know. I don't know anything.
them to judge?
I'm just going to show up and I'm going to cheer her on. And then the following Wednesday, the 15th, is the finale. So if you like women comics, or if you're a girl who wants to be in the competition, come down, see what it looks like. And they have a newcomer and they have a pro every year, and they win. And if you win, you get to travel and do theaters.
It's a good organization.
And it's run by Peggy Boyce, who is
the
a doll
greatest.
who did all that for girls. Okay, so that's it. Do you want to sing us out?
No, but I do want to say, please subscribe to our
yes.
iTunes,
Yes.
and we have a
All right.
Patreon. Donate anything you can to us, please.
We take $1.
We'll take $1.
Right. Also, Eddie_Brill at
Yes.
Twitter is
Yes.
for me
Okay.
to do that. And I'm on Instagram, Eddie Comic.
Yes, at Eddie Comic.
Yeah, and that's that. So those are the
Eddie
good ones.
Comic was your AOL name, too.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Remember you'd get on AOL and
you do the chat that would
yeah,
come
and it'd
down
be like,
there.
"Hey, Eddie, how you doing? Hi,
Yeah.
Eddie." They don't do that. That doesn't happen
don't think
anymore.
I
it
used
does
to hate
anymore.
when it would come up because I'd be like, I don't want them to know I'm there. Now I got to talk to this person.
Yeah.
I'm very antisocial.
I could
You
see.
are. You are.
That's me.
Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank
Yes.
you, everybody, and
Bye.
thank you,
It's
Eddie,
such a pleasure
so
to be
much. It was
I'm
And
glad you
thank you-
guys asked. I've been waiting.
a pleasure.
Yes.
Pleasure. It was all ours. Thank you.
Thank you, Telling.
Yay.
Give me a kiss. Mwah.